Life was very, very difficult because you were different. My parents knew that college, getting an education, without understanding English, understanding the American culture, that transcended, boundaries, country boundaries. Having an education was how you move forward.
Ultimately, you guys figured out that they took your money, but they weren't legitimate representatives to help you through the process.
Mom, a very entrepreneurial, resourceful woman, figured out, without speaking the language, how to get a business, how to get a car, how to get us registered in school. And again, didn't speak English, didn't have a roadmap.
Hi, welcome to Conversations with Laura. Today I have with me Veronica Cool. And, Veronica has an amazing story of her own where she's overcome challenges, and I'm pretty excited to share it with our audience.
Absolutely, Laura, and thanks for having me. I migrated to the U.S. when I was 10, learned to speak English because I was here, and went through significant challenges just growing up in the United States in a country that wasn't my own, making it my own. Every imaginable challenge you can think of. Didn't manage to graduate college. My parents knew that college, getting an education, without understanding English, understanding the American culture, that transcended, boundaries, country boundaries. Having an education was how you move forward.
See, that's what I wanted. I wanted the education because we hear this narrative from the time that we're really young that the key to success is going to college. If you want to be successful in life, you have to go to college. And it's so hard to do that. And I know it was hard for you too, because you had a lot of challenges trying to, make that available to yourself. When you came to the United States, your parents were looking for a better life for you. And this was let's just put it into context, it was in 1984.
1984.
So you've been here for a while, and you were 10
Yep.
when you first came. And your parents settled in New York with some family. And then they decided to relocate to Pennsylvania. And why did they make that decision? Why did they want to move?
So, I was 10, right? So your parents bring you. At this point, you don't know much of anything other than, do I have food? Do I have a safe place to live? We ended up in Philadelphia because they needed to make a living. And as a typical immigrant, they tend to do retail. So bodegas, grocery stores. They ended up going to Philadelphia. An uncle of my mom's had some grocery stores they could manage. So we settled in Philly.
So they were managing grocery stores originally, not owning them. They were working
in the very
them.
beginning, we were brought up by my half brothers to help run their grocery stores. After a little bit of time, we ended up buying our own. My mom, a very entrepreneurial, resourceful woman, figured out, without speaking the language, how to get a business, how to get a car, how to get us registered in school. And again, didn't speak English, didn't have a roadmap. We didn't have the internet in 1984, 1987. So you learn by doing, you learn by looking, you learn by talking to people. Hey, how'd you do that? Where'd you go for that? What do you do with this? And at the crux of everything was, are my kids going to be better? Can I make it easier for my kids? So there was never doubt in my mind that I was loved, I had a safe place. And just later, as an adult, did I realize, holy crap, was that hard?
Oh, you would never, yeah. As kids, we actually, I get asked this question all the time about growing up in a challenging environment. For me, it was inner city Baltimore. For you, it was New York and then Philadelphia. A lot of times people are like, well, was it hard? And I was like, that's all I knew. Like, I didn't know there was anything else.
You don't have a comparison.
So was it hard? No, I thought it was great because that's all I knew. But I found it very interesting that you had this pivotal moment when you were 10 coming to this new country. And for me, 10 was a pivotal age as well. We went from living in a house in inner city Baltimore to a little further out, but still in the city, and we moved in with my grandmother. So our whole family moved into a 1,000-square-foot house. That meant exactly, like you had the same thing where it's like you have the whole family, multiple generations in the same house. We had 5 kids, both parents, moving in with a grandmother. And then my mother took in another woman who she cared for, who was bedridden. And we had 9 people in 1,000 square feet.
That sounds about the same. We had the 5 of us, my 2 brothers, myself, my parents, moving in with a family of 4 to a 1-bedroom apartment in New York City.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, to your point, you don't know what you don't know. And this is what our lot in life was. So we just kept trucking through. So, when I was prepping for this conversation with you, didn't think anything of it until you start, in hindsight, could I do that today? Could I take my 2 kids and go into a 1-bedroom apartment? Never. So it is very, very different. Hindsight makes us brilliant.
I think, though, that the kids love it because they actually prefer a smaller environment because then everyone's closer together. I mean, we lived in an RV for a while when my kids were young, and they've never been happier. I mean, that was their happiest time. So we worry about that, but the truth is that they're fine.
And, family's at the core. I think having that knowledge that you always have backup, that you always have someone that understands you and supports you is huge.
Do you ever think about the life that your parents left behind, though, in the Dominican Republic?
It's funny, I just came back. I had taken my mom, who unfortunately suffers from dementia, back home.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It sucks. Absolutely sucks. We took her back to the Dominican Republic, to the little hometown where they grew up, with the idea of, could this maybe wake her up? Could this jog her memory? Could this improve the situation? And it is very, very interesting to see myself in that world and this world. Had I stayed, I have cousins my age. I remember playing with these cousins, and we're very, very tight. Luckily, social media in this regard, it's a big bonus because you maintain the relationships. But to see them today and me, it's like, there's a path, there's a fork in the road, and I took this one and they're there. So I can see what my life would have been like. And dramatically different, very humble, very family-centered, a lot more support.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh,
so if they had stayed, there would have been a lot more support.
I mean, we were alone. We were 5.
That's what I was going to ask you. I mean, did they know the hardships they were going to encounter?
No, they never think like that. My family never thought about obstacles. My family only thought about getting things done. And they passed that on to me and my brother. I don't understand mistakes and problems. To me, that's not even an option. So they truck through things, which, this is why therapy is so important. Something our culture, the Latino community, is still really far behind in.
Yeah, I was going to say, are we making progress there?
Not at all. Very stigmatized. But you just truck through things, and you think that it's normal to deprive yourself and to live such a burdened life. So back at home, I got to see my cousins have all the brothers, all the cousins, all the uncles, all the neighbors, and they've had them all their life. I didn't have any of that.
You know what's so great about that is that I don't think we talk enough about community and the importance of that. And I feel like we're so disconnected here. And the idea that you can have that community around you to support you, people would have happier marriages, the children would feel like there was a network of support, they probably wouldn't be on their devices as much. I really think that is critical to our happiness.
Well, I think we have to redefine happiness. We really have to redefine contentment. The United States, what do we sell? Productivity and money. That's it. Success is how much money do you have? How big is your house? That is what we measure as success. If you don't have those things, are you really successful? The rest of the world doesn't measure that.
But people come here for that. So many people come here for this idea of the American dream and the opportunity for success.
That's it. But their definition of success isn't the American definition of success. They're looking for stability, safety, comfort. So they're not looking to make so much money that they're drowning in it. They're looking for not money to have dinner at home every night. They're looking for, let me go to church with my family. Let me get away for the weekend. My relatives go away every weekend. They all close their business from 1 to 2:30 to have family meals.
Wow.
Everybody, all the staff, everybody goes away and has a good meal. That's the primary meal.
So they're connected, and there's a family unit that's together.
And it's all of them. It's all of them. My mom had an incident when we had to take her to the emergency room. Her blood pressure got really low. It was 9:30 at night. Not only did my cousin, his sister, my second cousin, my aunt, I had 3 people there with me from 9 to 11. No questions asked.
Wow, I love that. But I'm kind of curious, though. If you could do it again, like 10-year-old Veronica
Yes.
in the Dominican Republic versus 10-year-old Veronica in the United States, like if you could unwind it all, would you have stayed there, or are you glad that you?
No, I'm
your
glad
parents
of the life
brought you
I have.
here.
Yeah, no. I have an unbelievable fantasy life that I couldn't have there. I mean, the fact that I am owning my own business, that I can travel the world, that my kids go to college and have no debt, the fact that I control my own destiny, it's still a very sexist country in the Dominican Republic. I love my country.
Hey, I say if I was going to be born a female anywhere, I wanted to be born in the United States. I'm with you on that.
So I love my country. but the freedoms, the liberties that I have, the fact that the United States still holds true that you can pull yourself up by the bootstraps and be anything. There's no
I love
caste
that.
system. There is no, well, your mom was a this and your dad was a that. Therefore, you. I can be anything I want to be. I wouldn't trade that.
So I want to go back to when you were a teenager, though, because like there's definitely, the upbeat part of your story where you've been incredibly successful. And I think that's so meaningful and it's going to inspire people. But it was hard for a long time.
Yep.
I mean, it was really tough. So when your family moved to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia, at first you were working in grocery stores and your parents bought a grocery store, but you were working in the grocery store too.
After school, yeah. I mean, it's always a family function. You don't, in the Latino culture, you're not alone. So, my parents owned the grocery store. I was fluent. I was bilingual, so I had to work the grocery store.
That's such a help.
Well,
Yeah.
and they weren't. So, I would man the grocery store. I would try to help as much as possible after school, which meant that I didn't have the life that a typical teenager had.
What age did you start working in the grocery store?
Oh my God, since day one, since day one. So I remember being 14, being 15, being 16, and working in the grocery store, manning it. My parents would leave me so that the local neighbors, all kinds of people
You wouldn't normally think that you'd leave your child with.
would be watching me.
But it's a community again,
It is a community.
and people were looking out for each
And
other.
I mean, we have to define, only as an adult looking back, all those preconceived notions of that's a bad guy, that's a great person. You can't judge a book by its cover, and what you grow up with, it's very normal. Only until you leave it and you sit down in college and you're talking to people and you go, so you didn't have that? That's not how you grew up? So that's when you kind of understand how very different we were. But no, you're right. Life was very, very difficult because you were different, right? So
were you different in your community? Was it a primarily Hispanic community, or was it
so twofold. Mixed? The community was very much Latino.
It was Latino.
But high school wasn't. High school in Philadelphia was very diverse. We had a lot of black folks, a lot of Latino folks, a lot of white people. But I was different in the sense that they're all hanging out, having a good time, and I had to work. And I didn't have the luxury of, I'm going to just chill. Mom, I'm not doing that. Never talk back to your parents. So, I didn't even know I could go to college. That was never a discussion. I was a total nerd.
I'm so excited to tell that part of your story, honestly. But I do want to go back to when you were 15 and you started working in an office and your parents were trying to, go through the process of the immigration process, which everyone must go through who comes to this country. And I think it's pretty meaningful. And, it's up to you if you want to share this part of your story. But, your parents hired someone to help them through this process. And you ended up working in the office where the paperwork was being processed as, an administrative person going through these applications and entering into the system. And you realized that, in fact, ultimately you guys figured out that they took your money, but they weren't legitimate representatives to help you through the process.
And that's something that
that honestly breaks my heart.
No, and it's sadly normal. It's sadly normal. We actually see that today.
You think it's common still?
It's very common. I mean,
we have to figure out how to prevent that from happening. I mean, it's hard enough to figure out the process.
I would tell you that people are opportunistic. My Spanish accent came out there. And unfortunately, there's sharks everywhere. And
now, this was a long time ago. This was in
1987.
1987.
No, we definitely got defrauded. We paid $10,000 a pop to get legalized.
Which is an extraordinary amount of money. Even today, I mean, it's still a lot of money.
Right. It was a total scam, and we were definitely targeted. And because you don't have any control, any protections, you fall for it.
You have no agency either.
Nothing at all. So today still happens. We saw that in the housing crisis. We're seeing that now. People are getting targeted to protect their immigration status, protect their homes. $2,500 for this, $5,000 for that. In Spanish, other community members are pursuing them. So, what I would tell people.
So they're basically exploiting their own people. They're taking advantage of their own people. Wow. I mean, it truly breaks my heart.
But if it's not crossing the border or somebody cheating you, identity theft, you have fraud everywhere.
Yeah, but you guys got what I thought was so interesting about it is not only did you end up processing your own paperwork, but your mom's like, we're going to go ahead and take a trip back home to the Dominican Republic, and she took you to sort of test the papers and make sure you guys were okay, and you came back to the country and you got flagged.
Yeah.
Is that how you found out that they weren't legitimate?
Yes. We went back. I graduated high school. And it was
17?
At 17, yeah, because I'm a little nerd. And my mom celebrated that with, let's go back home and simultaneously let's test these papers and see how they worked. And after 7 years of being long gone and having this really horrible journey up here, it was beautiful to be home. I mean, they celebrated us, they feast and all these awesome things. And on the way back, we understood that the papers were not correct. And we had to do cleanup for years thereafter. So again, exploiting people that didn't necessarily know the system.
So I think we have to help our viewers understand that when your parents entered into this agreement to go through this process, not only did they not have that amount of money, because it's an extraordinary amount of money, but your mother took on additional work. She did other part-time jobs, and she honestly put herself in a pretty vulnerable position trying to save the money to pay for this process. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out to not even be legitimate.
Well, I often speak about do your due diligence, plan appropriately, and I'm impressed with my parents for persevering and having, this unfailing ability to live life for us. And didn't need to be that hard. It didn't need to be that hard. Would I do it today? If you called me and said, I'm going to move you to Italy, I'm going to move you to Colombia, I'm going to move you...
I think you would if it was your child.
Right.
You would do anything.
But I would ask 100 questions.
Right.
Where are we going?
And
where am I living?
Her sacrifice is extraordinary.
Oh, my God. My mother's a stunningly beautiful woman. One of the most elegant people you'll ever meet. My daughter's like that, so it skips a generation because the two of them are just so put together. No. I will typically have my hair up. I look like I'm ridiculous. And my mom and my daughter are just pristinely stunning all the time. But my mom had to take a security guard job, midnight shift, so she could make a couple extra dollars to help me go through college. And to see this stunningly beautiful woman in a hideous, polyester uniform made for men, and she has all these curves, didn't fit her.
She probably never complained about it.
Never. But, you saw.
I didn't have that mother, by the way. So there's a lot about your story that feels very personal for me, but I just didn't have that mother. She was never going to go that far to take care of her family. I just don't know if she could have put on the uniform for a job that she wasn't willing to do. And so the thought that your mom was willing to do anything for her family, it really it strikes me that, what more could you ask for? It doesn't matter what your circumstances in life are. I can see you welling up talking about it because I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry.
No. You're absolutely on the money. And it's very, very, front and center because I just brought her back from Dominican Republic. I'm talking, a week and a half ago. So, I'm reliving the way she was.
Which is extraordinary.
Correct. How incredibly resourceful. Someone that didn't speak the language, didn't maneuver anything. Think about it. We can't go anywhere without our phones. There were no phones then. There's no internet. There's no nothing. And not only do you not understand the language, you don't know the rules of the road.
Right.
She figured it out. She figured it all out. And then...
talk about an uphill battle and being determined to get through
and
the challenges.
Not even a question.
Because I think all of this comes down to determination, resilience, and resourcefulness.
And that's the point.
She embodies all three of those things.
Correct. So she never allowed anything to deter her from supporting us. So there was never a question, ever, ever, ever. What I learned from that, obviously, is there's always an answer. Resilience and determination can get you everything. So I always find it frustrating when people tell me, "Oh, I can't do that." I go,
"Can't isn't a word we
can't
use."
do that?
Yeah, no.
But then at the other side of the coin is, I've learned to plan. I often talk about life planning. When are you going to retire? How are you going to pay for school? Where are you going on vacation? That has led, seeing my past, seeing them, it did not need to be that hard. I'm grateful for everything I have, but did it need to be so hard? No.
Do you think the fact that it was so hard for them really inspired you to change how you were doing your life?
It's funny. You're assuming that you reflect and think things through, but you live in the moment every day. I don't think
I
had
had
a
that
choice.
conscious thought with my family. I really did. I was like, and in my case, it was actually the opposite. It was, I don't like how this is going, and I'm going to do it
I'm not gonna do it
differently.
again.
I'll do it differently than they did. I don't. Now I see what doesn't work for me, so I'm going to go out into the world and do it my way.
I never had the luxury of thought. We were always so desperate for stability that I grabbed every opportunity I had and I milked it. I just didn't allow anything else. I didn't know I had other choices. I just knew that if it was that hard, it wasn't going to be that hard for me. So I went to college and picked a major that would get me the first job with the best money.
Wait a minute, we got to take a step back though. I mean, you getting to college is honestly one of the most amazing stories that I have ever heard. So, you've gotten the message either from your parents or internally that college is the goal. So you shared with me a story of you got this scholarship to do this program abroad, and it ended up not happening or going through, but Harvard comes to visit your your high school, and you're like, oh, okay.
No, so let me tell you, I didn't know I could go to college. So in my country, college is paid for; it's free. So when I was in the United States, that never entered my mind. I just knew, I thought high school was it. I thought that was the education that you got.
I didn't think I could go to college either, but I knew I wanted to. Did you know that you wanted to?
No, I didn't even know that was an option for me. We were not connected to anything.
So you weren't even thinking about it.
We lived in a bubble of work, finish high school, work. I didn't know what would happen next. No one talked to me about next. I tell you that Harvard came, they were looking to get some minority.
With English as your second language.
Correct. But you don't have a choice. If you're an immigrant, you have to be.
I know.
You have to communicate.
I just think that's extraordinary. I mean, I don't think I could go to the Dominican Republic and be first in my class.
You're a Brazilian woman. You figure it out. But no. I went to. There was a scholarship program funded by an alum. Thank God for an alum, and it was supposed to be travel abroad. And because the Iraq War broke out, we couldn't go. So then all of a sudden they turned that funding into a little scholarship for an in-state college. And I was like, what? What does that mean? I can't get that cash? In my mind, I was like, give me the $1,000. And they're like, no, that's for college. It's a scholarship. I go, what do you mean? What is college? So seeing Harvard, trying to recruit.
Oh my gosh, that sounds so familiar to me. I'm like, what is college? Like what is that? And how do you get to do that?
I remember opening a catalog. I go, what do you mean? Where can I spend this? And they go, pick a state school. So I'm in Pennsylvania. I scroll down and I go, well, I want to study something that is interesting, like international business. The only school that offered that was Kutztown, Pennsylvania, in Kutztown, right near Reading, PA. I picked that sight unseen. I didn't even understand how much it was. I didn't understand you had to pay for housing. I didn't understand you lived there. I did not even know how to pack. I actually took the sheets off my bed and packed those.
So did you have a suitcase? I never had a suitcase.
No, I don't know if we had a suitcase. I think we had bags.
I remember when I bought my first suitcase,
bags.
I was 27.
Sounds familiar.
26. Yeah. So you got it. You basically had this opportunity to go to any college you wanted to go to because you were such a strong student.
The state school, yeah.
But you couldn't accept any federal aid because you were still in an undocumented status.
My status didn't allow me to get any aid, so I had to pay for school cash. So I had that little $1,000 scholarship, and then that didn't cover tuition, that didn't cover housing.
No.
So my mother had to take that part-time job overnight during middle of the night shift. Everyone in the neighborhood actually stepped up, and I would get $500 from the music store owner, $300 from that guy, $400 from that guy, and every semester I lied. Every semester to register, because you couldn't register if you owed money. So if the current semester was past due, you couldn't register for the next semester. So I would have a sob story at the bursar's office. My grandfather died. Next semester, my grandmother died. Following semester, my dad's really sick. And I mean, these people, amazingly generous, just looked the other way.
Wow.
I didn't pay for school probably until 4, 5, 6 years afterwards. And I paid back every single person that gave me $300, $400.
So did you keep a record of all of them? And we're talking about on the streets of Philadelphia, so it's a wide range of characters who helped you out, and were like, you're gonna go to college.
Right. I mean, I would talk. My dad and mom would go to stock the grocery store. They would take, go to the distributorships, buy supplies, and I'd be left alone. So I would have the neighborhood coming by, checking in on me, because I'm the only one that ever gone to college. And I was like, I don't know that I can pay for it and go back. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I owe 1,500. I don't know how to find that money. And the grocery store was so, I mean, this is a local corner store. If we sold $300 a day, we were lucky. Um, but they were like, no, you got to go. You're the only one that's gone. You got to go.
Why do you think that they thought you could get out, like you could succeed?
Well,
I mean, being number 2 in your class doesn't hurt.
I don't think they even knew that because this grocery store and the school were very, very far apart. I think it was hope, right? I think is if someone can do it, it has to be you. You know, you one of us is out, and by vicariously let us live through that. There's hope that, you know, supposedly the American dream happens. Let that be you. Go. And again, you're 17, you're 18. You don't have a clue what this means to people. And that's happened a couple times in my career where you're a Latina in a room, and Black women and Latinas and other, you know, women of color are like, you made it. And you're like, what are you talking about? And it's you that they're looking at. And you go,
I'm just living my life here.
right. But, you know,
doing my best.
without even thinking, you become something to somebody. And I think in that neighborhood, I was, no, if she can do it, then there's hope that as a community, we can do it.
Did you have any role models? Was there anyone to look up to? Or did you, I mean, you obviously became a role model, but...
Thank you. I would say my parents. I didn't. There was, you know, because we're immigrants, our world was different. And then today, in 1987, there was no one I knew. I mean, I had my elementary school teacher, Mrs. Rossner, so welcoming, so eager to roll the red carpet for.
You had a teacher who inspired you. I love that.
Mrs. Ross. I keep in touch with her.
I still remember the teachers who inspired me too. I think we all do. I think it really makes a difference, particularly when you're really struggling and you feel like you're kind of on your own.
And you're alone, yeah.
Yeah. So you go to college, and I think it's pretty extraordinary, especially for today's youth who go to college for 4 years and half of it is about having fun and hanging out with other people. That wasn't your experience. Like the idea that you graduated in 3 years, it's like I can't even imagine.
Double major, summa cum laude. Told you I was a nerd.
Incredible. That's not a nerd. That's a hard worker.
Yeah, no, we didn't have a choice. And I knew that I needed a job, and this was my ticket. So I wasn't wasting it.
Did you knew that from day one of being in college?
I mean,
so you went to college with the purpose of
getting a job.
Turning that into a career.
Period. And it wasn't, I didn't have the privilege of, I'm going to do basket weaving. I'm going to explore and find my identity. No, it was like, which one of these jobs, which one of these courses, studies, majors will get me a job?
Yep.
Okay, that one, accounting, finance, let's go. I have my undergrad and my master's in finance because of that.
That's extraordinary. So, I mean, there's a big debate going on about what's the purpose of college. I mean, the purpose is to prepare you for adulthood.
The purpose is to teach you how to learn, period. Yeah. I am convinced that's all it taught me because I'm not in that field now. It taught me how to process information. It taught me how to handle myself, how to time manage, how to juggle. So I don't believe college is I don't think college makes you successful. You have to learn how to behave. You have to learn how to process. You have to learn how to think. Critical thinking is non-existent today. So people can't figure out answers to problems because they don't know how to.
They just pick up their phone and go onto ChatGPT or something. You know, right. They just do a search.
Right.
So what do you think? I do have this belief that those early challenges in life are what prepare us for getting things done. You know, we learn resourcefulness. We learn that we have to show up. We have to take initiative. Otherwise, we're stuck and we're going to stay there.
Right.
How do you think that like sort of happened for you? Do you think those early experiences helped prepare you to get through college in 3 years with a double major and with honors?
Yes. I mean, I think seeing what my parents did, and there was never a complaint, there was never hesitancy. I mean, how could I waste that opportunity? So, it's funny.
So you felt a sense of obligation.
No, not a sense of obligation, just a commitment. It's a commitment. I was granted this opportunity. How can I lose it? How can I waste it? So not obligation in the sense that I felt burdened, but, if they did their part, I do my part.
I get it.
And it was my contribution.
That's the upbeat attitude. I mean, that's like, I'm just going to do my part.
It's funny. I talked to my therapist about this, and she says, you came from a place of deprivation. And
I heard those exact same words.
I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, so you hoard everything and you milk it for all because you came and I was like, I don't even know what you're saying to me. I don't know what any of those words mean.
Oh my gosh.
But
That's so
it's, you know,
familiar.
when you sit there and you unpack it, it's, we came from, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
So
Do you stock the pantry, or is your pantry overstocked?
Always, always. I hoarded all. And
I finally got over that recently.
I clip coupons and
I did that too.
I
Oh
go
my
to
gosh.
Goodwill. I go to Goodwill before I
Sure.
buy something. I go, I don't need it new. Yeah, I'm only gonna wear it 2 times. And you're like,
I think it depends.
your kids go, Mom, you have money, and I go, yeah, but I
You've
don't know.
built
I
a
don't know.
company.
I don't know.
So why do you think that, I'm always curious about this, and I have to tell you, people ask me this question all the time because I've been so open about my own journey and how challenging it was and the things I had to overcome to be successful in my career and in my life. And I get this question over and over again. How did you make it out? How did you make it out? Like, why do you think you made it out and others did not?
I think everybody had their journey, right? And I always expected more for myself. I didn't know what that meant, but I never settled. Even now, I'm not settled. You know, I feel accomplished. Like when people read my bio, when they read it out loud, I go, oh my God, who is that person?
right?
Who is that? They sound amazing. And then I go, oh, wait, that's me. So that's not enough. And I'm not trying to be greedy, but I think I'm very focused on building legacy. My father built something amazing that 50 years later, people still talk about in the Dominican Republic. The fire engine he delivered, he fought a dictator. So I am very mindful of, I was walking down the street, passed away, and because I'm so light-skinned in Dominican Republic, I'm a little different, people stopped me on the street and said, are you Juan Namnen's daughter? And I was like,
Oh my goodness.
and I only go back every 3-4
Well,
years.
that depends. Why are you asking?
And you're like, I am. Let me tell you what your father did for us. And I had that happen
Wow.
like 5-6 times in the span of 3 days when we were delivering his remains. And I was like, made me think, would people remember me like that? Would people stop my kids? Have I done anything worthwhile that my kids would be stopped in the middle of the street? So it made me realize, and I couldn't verbalize it at 20. Now at 51, I can. Makes me wonder, what am I doing? What's my mark? What am I leaving behind?
Your
so
legacy.
I cannot function in a world where I'm just enjoying and eating good food and good wine, although that's nice. But that's why I got out, because I never settled. I don't, my purpose in life is not to just be. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, whether it's empowering Latina women, entrepreneurs, my own kids, caring for my mom and giving it back. It's too much to just settle.
So I really do want to save some time to talk about this amazing career that you've built for yourself, but you've brought up a really important point. And, you know, I feel that way too. I never feel like I want to settle. But is there a part of you that feels like, you know, if you're always striving for the next thing, that creates this perfectionist tendency, which then creates a lot of frustration because you can never be perfect. And so, you know, we get frustrated because we can't achieve that thing that
What's
we're
next?
always searching
What's
for,
next?
right?
What's next? And I think you have to do a lot of reflection. I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of thinking. I know I'm not getting it all right. I think if I do something, and I have, you know, I established Maryland Latinos Unidos with a couple of other women. We've done unbelievable work. My business every day helps immigrants and communities do better. So I know I'm doing that. I have to talk to myself every so often and go, you're not going to get it all right.
Right.
And
maybe I need to enjoy the journey.
And I do that. You know, I actually have learned to say no. I'm a little bit of a jerk when that comes up. Everybody wants you to check a box. And I've learned to ask tough questions. What's your budget? What's the timeline? What's in it for me? Mm-hmm. Because
that's what business people do.
Well, back to the airplane analogy. If I'm not getting the oxygen mask, you know, I can't help anyone else. So I can't keep giving because I'll be completely depleted. So I've learned to pay attention to that. I've learned to say no, be selfish. People get really upset about it. I can see their face when I say the word, I'm selfish. And they're like, what do you mean? You can't be selfish. You're a woman. You're a Latina. How dare you? And you're like, well,
I don't think selfish is a word I would ever think of in thinking about you.
But I've learned to protect me
Yeah.
and what's good for me, my community, and my family. I actually ask those questions anytime I get invited to do something. What's in it for me? What's in it for my community? What's in it for my family?
I do want to talk a little bit about your business because it truly is a success story. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about how you got there. So you started working in banking.
Yeah.
And do you want to share anything about your early career?
Yeah, no, I'll just say that I learned from zero. I was a retail branch manager in Reading, Pennsylvania in 1995.
See, you're saying that like it's funny, but that's a cool starting job.
Oh my God.
That's a great
I was
job.
running the drive-through. I spent like a week in each position, and I thought I was hot stuff. Oh, I was dressing in nice suits and it had stockings and nylons.
We had to wear stockings back then.
Oh my gosh!
If we wanted to be taken seriously,
right. You had to,
heels too.
You had to fit the mold. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. So no, I built an unbelievable career in banking. I killed it, and it all goes down to just the ability to talk to people. I mean, finance was great, but it was my ability to sit down and talk to people and dig into their numbers and their plan and coach them. Be like, oh, your credit isn't good. I can't give you the loan for the building yet, but let's clean it up. Look, do this 4 things, give it a year and a half, save this, do that, do this, come back. And I never thought about it because, I can't. We didn't have CRMs. We didn't have all these tools. It was just me doing what I thought was the right thing. Fast forward, I had the healthiest pipeline. I outproduced entire states by myself. Number 1 in the country, multiple years in a row, because people would come back 5 years later and be like, you told me, I don't even remember them. You said to do these 4 things, I did. And you're like, all right, okay. It's $1 million loan here, $500,000 loan there. So the business banking, my career in banking was stellar because I just paid attention to people. And if they didn't qualify today, that wasn't a trash deal to me. It was like, no, they'll be good next year, 2 years from now. So I invested in that. And invariably, they kept coming back. So after 20 years of just doing really well, the economy changed a little bit, 2008. And it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was all regulatory and compliance and checking the box. But while that was happening, I had built this brand of, I was the Hispanic whisperer. That's just my calling it. But everyone would whisper questions at me. How do I get more Latinos to buy my product, to register in school, to donate, to vote, to work for me? And it took a little bit, but I was like, everybody's asking me the same question. This is a business.
So you built a pipeline for yourself instead of for someone else's bank.
I did.
And built a successful company. And today you have 15 employees.
Yep.
That is truly a success story.
We're incredibly blessed today. We sit and we are the Spanish extension of government agencies, nonprofits, companies that want to hire, engage, solicit, grow Hispanic, and substitute the noun, whether you want a voter, a student, a consumer, an employee. We will assess the operational process, your marketing, your operations, your communications, the entire gamut. And as far as I know, I think we're the only ones that do this in the entire United States. There's marketing agencies, yes. There's translators, yes. But there's no one that does the whole operational life cycle. Because what we discovered is I could translate that. And if the translation says, call this 800 number to become an organ donor, to become a student, that 800 number was manned by English speakers. So you would spend all this money in marketing and materials, but the operation wasn't set up. Or the hiring managers were not properly trained. So they couldn't understand, why does she have an accent? Why is she so reserved? Why is she not fitting our mold? So we developed training and leadership development and assessments so that when you do attract the Latino consumer, employee, voter, fill in the blank, they stay.
Well, what I love about it is that you went from this very traditional business, which is banking, and you became an entrepreneur. And that doesn't normally happen. Like, people who are drawn to large companies, they like the stability, they like the structure, they like the predictability. Being an entrepreneur is really creating something on your own.
Well,
Did you have a customer or a client when you started?
No. I completely
So you jumped off the cliff.
Jumped off a cliff. I have stories about that. But I would tell you.
We'll do that in our next conversation.
I know, seriously. No, but I think that journey had to happen the way it happened. I think I needed to learn what I learned. And coming from a place of depravity, deprivation, not depravity. I needed that stability of a job. I needed to save money. I needed to learn how corporate America worked. So after having that, I had the nice foundation where I could say, now what? And because I had built that brand, people came to me. Well, now that you're free, you're no longer in banking, could you help us with? I didn't launch the company. They launched it. They asked me so much that I was like, wait.
My guess is at first you were like, sure, I'll help you. And then you're like, well, this is my time. I mean, this is
No.
valuable.
I knew it was a business from the very beginning, but having all the inquiries, it's like, oh, so 4, 5, 6 people ask me, can you do this for us? Can you translate? Can you check this? Can you double check that? And you're thinking, yeah, but what about this other piece and this piece? And then as I'm answering, of course, you're in business banking. You're looking at operations your entire life. You get to see it. And you go, this is a business.
A very successful one with 15 employees. It's extraordinary.
Thank you.
And you're a mom too. Well, let's not forget that because that is like the most important title. I always, whenever I fill out a form,
you put that first,
like on a board or something where they're like, "What's your title?" I'm like, entrepreneur. Like I'm so proud of that title. I love that title. I said the only thing that ranks higher than that is mom, right? It's pretty extraordinary. And you have 2 children.
I do. I have a 23-year-old girl. She graduated with a psychology degree. She's been analyzing me.
Oh, well, that's
She
fine.
now has official terminology.
I think
for
my
all
daughter's
my
analyzing
issues.
me too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
She's still in high school.
Oh
though.
my God. No, she's a class act. I love her to death. She's really impressive. My son is 21. He goes to Ohio State. He plays lacrosse. And
did I hear he's a Division I?
He's a Division I recruit. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you how you raised them differently than you were raised, but it sounds like they're very successful. So
thank you.
You must have figured that out.
Thank you. No, I think it is living the American dream. And I think what my parents taught me is you love and you deliver. And what I learned from them differently is I talk very openly to my kids. I have that my entire life. I push them hard. Very demanding. I'm very, very demanding. I think they have a role to play in life, and I'm expecting that. And I want them to expect it. They can't be me. They can't deliver from me. But my hope is that they're armed to have a fulfilling life that contributes to society. You can't be a burden. You got to do your part. And they're fantastic kids. They're still kids, so they'll figure it out. But so far, they're pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
They bust
Gen
me up
Z.
everything.
They're Gen Z.
Yeah,
love it. So what? We only have a couple more minutes, but I would like to know what you think makes you different. Like how did you know you could do these things? I know we talked about how did you get out when others weren't able to, but I do think there's something inside of us where we have to have this undeniable belief in ourselves, even when we don't necessarily feel the self-esteem or we're challenging ourselves or we're questioning ourselves. There's something about needing to like believe you can do it, even though at the same time you're questioning whether you can do it.
I didn't ever question I could do something. I have zero fear, zero constraints. I don't know where that came from. You know, I get asked that. I think you asked me that for the first time. I don't have any restraints. If I want to do something, I don't know if it's my parents. I don't know if I've never failed. And it sounds so ridiculously arrogant when you say it like that. But in my mind is if something is going downhill, I pivot. I learn, don't do that shit again. Freak that up.
That didn't work.
Right, oops.
Reroute.
But I continue. So nothing I've ever done has been a mistake.
Not everything has worked out though.
No.
So, but you don't view them as failures.
They're not. They're not.
They're
I mean,
learning experiences.
You say the wrong thing. You take the wrong project. You take the wrong client. You show up in not the way you're not supposed to. But I've always learned from that. So I don't accept any of those as mistakes. So I've never had fear of messing up because it's the worst that can happen.
Do you ever go back after a meeting and say, oh, I should have said this?
Of course.
Or I wish I'd have said that.
Of course.
Or maybe I shouldn't have said it.
Of course. All of that. But I go back to, this is going to sound really arrogant, but simpler people, less prepared people than me, less intelligent people than me have been much more successful than me.
That is not arrogant.
No. But
I mean, we know that's a fact.
So
right?
when I see that I actually put that
it happens.
well, I put those pants on. I go, wait, less prepared people, simpler people, dumber people figure that out are getting paid way more than me. They don't even speak properly. They don't even have an accent. I go, what makes them better? Nothing.
I think it's that they believe that they can.
Well, that's it. So I don't allow any doubt because I know I'm more prepared than anyone else in that room. I know I will figure out and deliver higher than ever expected. I know that. So I don't allow any concern, any hesitancy, because let me in the room and I'll just blow it up. So I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it's my parents. I
think it's that journey you were on where you had to figure things out.
Well, I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to starve. My kids are not going to starve. So to me, you will never hurt me. So I can't figure it out. I'll go through it. I'll go around it. I'll come back later. It's not for me. I have something better over here. So that's never bothered me. So, I don't get anxious. I don't get stressed because
you don't get anxious going in front of a crowd of people and standing on a stage.
No,
ever.
I know that's one of my favorite
things. Oh my
things.
gosh, I told someone. I love doing that too, but I told my cohort of entrepreneurs recently, I said, everyone gets nervous.
I love that. No. You're definitely nervous. I'm going to sound like an idiot. I'm going to stutter. Of course. But I mean, at the end of the day, I know what I can deliver. So that somehow gives me confidence in knowing we all have a story to tell. I know I'm proud of what I've accomplished. I love that. And at the end of it all, my parents gave me this gift. And I want my kids to see, look where I came from. If I came from that, dude, you are set up to be a rock star. No excuses.
Absolutely. Well, you are truly an inspiration. And I am honored to have you here today.
Thanks,
and
Laura.
Having this conversation with you. You're going to change people's lives. I know that you already have, and that you've been doing that along your entire journey, but it's a real pleasure to hear the story and to be able to share some of the lessons along the way. So thank you for being with us today.
Gracias a ti. Thank you so much. This was great.
It. It's wonderful.
It was.
We have 5 minutes left.